Okay, this is the professional development I did with the staff on how to plan for technology integration. Um, when I designed this professional development, I took things that I learned from classes in the cohort and I pulled numerous resources together to make my own professional development. And I had three objectives for the staff in this one. I wanted to review what 21st century learning skills are and what the Baltimore County Public Schools planning rubric for technology integration was. I knew that this was something that the staff was not going to be familiar with because at that time 21st century learning skills were something that were very new, and no one in the school had really been introduced to them. Even our technology integration teacher was inexperienced as to what they are because they were so new. So I was on the cutting edge with that. I also wanted the staff and the faculty to be able to determine various levels of technology integration. And finally, I wanted them to visit and become familiar with the CBTAA site that the Office of Instructional Technology has. And so as we went through, I first took them through a flip chart on what 21st century learning skills are, and we talked about different scenarios, and we talked about how could you implement this in your classroom, and what sort of technology tools do you think you could use to do this, and we went through each of the six 21st century learning skills. Then we went through and we talked about the BCPS planning and implementation rubric for tech integration, and made mention of some of the questions to ask when you're planning a lesson. Just things to think about. I focused a lot on the different levels. Asked people to evaluate themselves. Most people were either at a 0 or a 1, and I had them set a goal for themselves as to whatever level they currently felt they were at by the end of the year, and this was presented in August at the back-to-school meetings. Wherever they were at that point, at the end of the year, their goal was to move up at least one level. So if they were at a level 1, which was solely teacher use, they want to move up to a level 2, which is teacher-directed student use, but it's not a very high level of cognitive demand. And if they're at level 2, move on to a level 3, and so on. And so we went over the rubrics, and we did an activity where I would give them scenarios and say what level of technology integration you feel this is, so that they had time to absorb the information and apply it in a meaningful way. What I really wanted to do with this professional development, other than share this information with the faculty and staff, was I really wanted to try to demonstrate effective teaching strategies, effective pedagogy. I wanted them to see how it is that we could communicate and collaborate and be creative and think critically. I didn't want it to just be a straight lecture where I talk at them and they just sit there and are probably bored out of their mind and thinking, what can I do in my classroom, and I've got all this stuff to do. I really wanted it to be meaningful and authentic to them. And I wanted it to be that way because that's what I wanted them to go back to their classroom in the following week when they got their students and do the same thing with their students. I really wanted them to get something out of it. Finally, I showed them an Edutopia video called "A Classroom Veteran Warrants the Digital Tools." At my school, I have a lot of veteran teachers, and a lot of them are technology hesitant or reluctant, and so I really wanted to show them, and it was a really good video that demonstrated a veteran teacher in the same situation as what they are, and talks about how he slowly integrated technology and how it was a learning process, and he had to turn to the kids and other people for help, and just how good of an experience it is. And then finally we ended with the CBTIA site, because I wanted the teachers and the faculty and staff, I wanted them to know that yes, it's going to be challenging to integrate technology. No, it's not the easiest thing in the world, but here's a resource already available to you so that you can have a launching point that you don't have to try to make everything from scratch. There are certain things available to you as a launching point. And so I wanted to show them things that were already made, that had already been vetted, that had already been pre-approved and gone through the entire process. And I wanted to really point them to the CBTIA site.